Chapter 8. Zane arrived at the Baltimore-Washington International Airport on a Saturday morning on a flight from Africa. It was an 11-hour flight, buffeted by so much turbulence as the plane sliced through the icy air. Zane was flying international for the first time, and the flight had been too long for her. The turbulence and its associated anxiety tightened up her stomach and killed her appetite. She had been uncomfortable throughout the flight, which couldn't have arrived soon enough at the time that it did. She went through immigration and customs and soon was walking towards the sliding doors that opened to the access road outside. Osak had come with Felicia, who was strapped in her car seat. She was sprightly dressed up in colorful baby's overalls, and her straight brown hair was bunched up in a pony. Felicia took after her mother much more than Osak in physical appearance. She was highly light-skinned and straight-haired. She also had her mother's oblong-shaped face and pointed nose. Osak had stood next to the vehicle as he waited for his sister to exit the airport terminal. He dared not leave the vehicle unattended to go into the terminal to look for her, lest airport police issue him a citation and impound the vehicle. As he had already told Zane what to do in a phone call with her just before she left Africa, to walk out of the terminal onto the access road, he hoped she would do just that. Osak had waited anxiously for about 10 minutes before observing her walk through the doors onto the pavement adjacent to the roadway. He strode up a few yards to meet her. They smiled and embraced joyously. The last they had seen each other had been 7 long years ago. Osak carried her luggage for the short walk to his vehicle. They were out of the airport vicinity within minutes, as Osak pulled the vehicle into traffic. Osak had asked Zane to sit in the front passenger seat, but Zane was super excited to see her little niece. She elected to sit in the back and be near Felicia. Zane stared at Felicia in amazement. This was her first time seeing a mixed-race baby, and this baby was part of her, as a half-offspring of the Ibu family. She was fascinated with Felicia's physical appearance. She attempted to take Felicia out of her car seat so she could carry her in her arms, but Osak stopped her for reasons of safety and to avoid a citation from a traffic officer for failure to secure a baby in a car seat as required by law. He had to explain the law to Zane, who was jocularly insistent on carrying her niece in her arms. "Don't worry, Zane," he assured her. "You will get to carry her in your arms plenty of times, anytime you want. Just let us get home first." "How are our parents? I hope they were fine when you left home yesterday," he inquired. "They are well," said Zane. "What about our hometown and the country in general? Are the institutions of higher learning still shut because of the strike?" "Our hometown is fine. Dad has everything under control," said Zane. "It's just that he has created a buzz about an impending big ceremony to welcome the reincarnated matriarch of the town in your daughter." Osak bit his lower lip after hearing what Zane had just said. He had not bought into this superstition in the beginning. But as Felicia ailed every now and then, and came close to death on a couple of occasions, he became sold on the destiny of his daughter being tied to supernatural powers that could wreak havoc with that destiny if he failed to carry out the activities he was told would release the hold of the supernatural powers. He had decided he would do it, and how he would do it was majorly the reason why Zane was now around, although Zane did not know it just yet. The enormity of the challenge involved in successfully carrying out his plans weighed on him. Zane's mention of the ceremony was thus an immediate stressor, which made his heart to skip a beat. "Did Dad tell you when this ceremony will hold?" he asked her. "Dad said it will hold only when Uwa is brought back to the community for the ceremony, which will also involve ritual activities," replied Zane, who called Felicia by her supposed original name from her first lifetime on Earth. Osak paused for a long while until Zane broke the silence. "You will have to travel home with Uwa for the ceremony," she stated. If only Zane knew how complicated it was to do what she had just stated, Osak thought for a moment. If only she knew that his white wife would brook no such thing, and might even file for divorce as a consequence of even trying to persuade her to go along. If only Zane knew that getting Felicia into Africa for this ceremony and associated circumcision was easier said than done, perfectly akin to a popular proverb in their language that associated the impossible with dogs growing horns someday. Perhaps she wouldn't have made her statement in the perfunctory manner that she did. In any case, Zane was now here in America, and she was a critical component in the plot he cooked that would see Felicia taken to the African continent. He did not plan to let her know just yet of the role she would play until the appropriate time, a few months into the future. Zane played with Felicia as Osak navigated the light Saturday morning traffic, driving slightly below the speed limit. Zane pulled Felicia's little hands tightly and tickled her. Felicia smiled at Zane in excitement. Zane touched her hair and felt its smooth texture. She never stopped marveling at her little niece, and her eyes remained fixated on Felicia as she conversed with Osak. "I am looking forward to meeting your wife," said Zane. "She as well," said Osak. "You will like my wife. She is a very nice person, and the best thing that ever happened to me." "Is she the type that will agree to relocate with you, should you decide to return to Africa?" Zane asked. "Well, we haven't had that conversation yet, but I am not thinking about relocation anytime soon. I asked because you are the heir to the throne of our hometown. Should anything happen to Dad, you are the next king. Wouldn't you relocate to take up the kingship?" "I haven't thought about all of that yet," said Osak. "I wish Dad great health such that he continues as king for many, many more decades." "I have the same wish for Dad as you do, but you can't rule out anything unexpectedly happening which could thrust the kingship on you," Zane admonished. "Zane, my beloved sister, I heard you loud and clear. I will cross that bridge when I get to it." Osak avoided hitting a deer as he pulled into his street. The animals often foraged in the bushes on the edges of the estate and were known to roam the quiet streets. Zane had been momentarily agitated when she saw the beast. Her shock was attributed to the fact that she had never seen one before. She had read about wild animals like the deer she had just seen in her geography books in high school and thought they existed only in Africa. There were animals in her community back home, but they were all domesticated animals: goats, sheep, pigs, and cattle. Unlike the East African bushes, where lions, antelopes, and the like thrived, the West African region where her hometown was located in did not have many wild animals. "What was that?" she asked Osak with a start, straining her neck to look at the large male deer which galloped towards the bushes. "It's a deer," said Osak. "We have so many of them around here." "They come in here in this built-up estate?" Zane asked incredulously. "Well, we have bushes around here that they graze in." "Well, people living in this estate are very lucky then," she said. "They have plenty of meat to eat." No, said Osak. "The animals cannot be hunted like that. It's against the law. Only the government decides when they can be hunted." "You mean no one can spear the beast that I just saw and kill it?" "What sort of nonsense law is that?" mocked Jane of the law. "I wish we had deer like this in our hometown. No government can save them." They both laughed at the joke. "We must be getting close to your house," said Zane. "Yes, we will arrive there shortly." Osak soon pulled up to the front of his house and pressed on the horn for Ingrid's attention. She looked through a window to observe his car, and she stepped outside. Zane alighted from the vehicle. Osak came around to remove her luggage from the trunk, then picked up Felicia. They walked up to Ingrid, who was wearing a white top and blue jeans, and stood on the porch. She stretched out her right hand to shake Zane's hands, then hugged her briefly. "Welcome to our home," said Ingrid. "Thank you," said Zane. "How was your flight?" "It was okay," said Zane, who elected not to bother telling Ingrid about how awful the turbulence hit flight had been. Zane figured she would have to go into the details about her experience, and she didn't think it was appropriate to do so in her first conversational encounter with her sister-in-law, whom she was setting eyes on for the first time. It was better, in her opinion, for her first extended conversation with Ingrid to be on something happy and cheerful in nature. The welcome pleasantries on the porch lasted for a couple of minutes before Osak handed over Felicia to Ingrid, picked up Zane's luggage, and pushed open the front door. Inside the well-furnished home, Zane marveled at the opulence. Ingrid wanted to show her around the house, but she had been cooking lunch during the period Osak and Felicia had been out to the airport to pick up Zane. She wanted to serve this lunch before showing Zane around the house. Zane sat in the living room where Osak had switched the television on for her. Ingrid walked back and forth between the kitchen and the dining room as she put out the dishes she had made to feed her sister-in-law with. She had made lasagna, baked chicken, mashed potatoes, gazpacho soup, her husband's favorite, rolls, carrot cake, a salad of mixed veggies, romaine lettuce, watercress, carrots and onions, and spiced oxtail. Osak had taught her how to make oxtail, an African delicacy Ingrid had never heard of. until Osak brought the meat home one day and cooked it. She did not eat it the first few times Osak cooked the delicacy, because she thought the tail of cattle was typically thrown away by meatpacking companies or used in making dog food, and so she refused to eat it. But the kind of loving relationship she had with Osak was such that she didn't mind bending to his predilections if they were not outrageous and extreme. And trying some kind of strange meat he liked to eat was not an extreme act. So she tried it one day, and it didn't taste badly. Ingrid invited Zane to the dining room when she was ready. They waited for Osak, who was briefly in his home office in the basement, to join them. They conversed as they waited. "That's a lot of food," Zane exclaimed. "The dishes look very appetizing." "Thank you," said Ingrid. "I hope you will like them." The noise of Osak's footsteps on the basement stairs wafted up to the hearing of the women, who were ready to start eating, but hesitated until he took his seat. Finally, taking his seat, he said the before-meal prayer, after which they dove into the food. Osak went for the gazpacho and the mashed potatoes, his replacement meal for the fufu and thick African vegetable/meat/fish soup he grew up on in Africa. He had started to make oxtail and thick African soup about twice a month, but making them was time-consuming. Ingrid made oxtail too, but she cooked them only on special occasions, such as this one today, to welcome Zane. As Zane was now here, Osak hoped that his beloved thick African soup would be regular fare in the house. Zane tried the lasagna, even though she'd never eaten any before, and liked it. She also ate some of the salad. Osak was amazed at his sister's ease in consuming American food. He was in his 7th year of American residency, yet he was yet to acquire a taste for lasagna. He had once despised salad, but was persuaded by Ingrid to start eating it because it was healthy food. One of his tasks in his boyhood years back home was to put out the family's goats and sheep to pasture in the surrounding bushes, where the animals munched on green vegetation. The greens of his hometown bushes had a resemblance to the salads he saw in America, and he had formed a psychological block in his brain never to eat them. When Ingrid noticed that he didn't like salads, and she asked why, he told her salads were good food. She had thought he was being silly, but she later realized she had to work on him to change his mindset about salads. "How did you acquire the taste for American food?" he asked Zane. Zane laughed. "Food is like music," she answered. "It is a universal thing. The cultural background of the food does not matter." "You live in America. Don't you like American foods?" she asked him. "Some American foods I do like, but it took me some time to get used to them." Ingrid had to chime in. "Zane, don't listen to him," she said in jest. "Enjoy your food." End of chapter 8.